Hello, and welcome to Streaming Stop Motion Productions in the big world of Tiny Chef. My name is Whitney Schmerber, and I am the Art Department Production Supervisor at ShadowMachine in Portland, Oregon. Maybe you're a fan of Tiny Chef or Stop Motion or ShadowMachine or Autodesk products, but whatever the reason, I'm really glad that you're here today. Today, I'm going to talk about the art department workflow at ShadowMachine and how we lean into flow production tracking. We're going to walk through the design process for key environments in the season 2 of Tiny Chef and look towards the future with flow capture. This is me. I spent the first half of my career as an opera stage manager before getting into stop motion animation. I oversee all scheduling, staffing, purchasing, tracking, and inventories for the art department and assist with designing flow production tracking to meet the needs of the art department for the production. So what is the art department? The art department is responsible for the design and the fabrication and the maintenance of all the props, the furniture, the vehicles, the walls, the floors, the landscapes, the greens, practical special effects, lighting fixtures, and more. The workflow to get all this work done is really complex, and it requires input from a lot of different people and a lot of different departments. And although the process is complex, task management and asset tracking shouldn't be. So let's start at the top. We've got a script and we've got a budget. Now what? Well, now we get into the one-line scheduling. The one-line scheduling is the shooting order, and it shows us the unit assignments and the number of needed duplicates from puppets and art to complete the shoot on time. This dictates the specific delivery schedule for every set build on the project. Once we have that shooting plan confirmed, then along with my counterpart in the puppet department, we start the scheduling of the fabrication. And once we have all that fabrication scheduled, we staff up for our fabrication teams and get our design process started. Our design process typically starts with a creative launch by executives. And in that launch, we're looking for what are the big beats in the space? What's the overall feel? What are key moments that we need to consider during the design? And what character information should we consider as part of this location? All of those things get wrapped up and integrated into the concept art. And effective concept art includes location and emotional tone, overall layout and look, recognizable reflections of show style, and functional requirements of the setting, main narrative goals that the environment can help support. So once we have this concept art and it's been bought off on, then we launch our design teams. And the design teams include look development, set design, prop design, and graphic design. Now, set design, pretty straightforward. Prop design, again, pretty straightforward. Graphic design, those are all of the logos and things that are going to go on the props that we're building. And then look development. This look development is really interesting. It helps iterate and experiment in how design theories and concept art play out dimensionally. This helps define and establish the rules of the world as we move through designs, and it creates tent pole samples that give us design landmarks. All these things are put together along with the Build Bible, and the Build Bible, it includes the concept art, along with reference and draftings, asset counts, and specifics on which teams are tackling which builds. The Build Bible is referred back to during the entire process, so we want to make sure that it's thorough and that it's readily available for all the fabricators. Once we have all these key components ready, we're good to start with fabrication. So the fabrication starts with the shop launch. This is where we pass all that information, all those things that we learned along the way, off to the fabricators so they can begin to fabricate. Our different teams are set fabrication, landscapes, model shop, mold cast, and scenic. And every single asset that we build travels through every single one of these departments. And along the way, sometimes props are held by a puppet, so they need to be sent through the puppet department to get buy-off from that particular team. Or maybe there's a certain prop that needs to fly through the air, and we need to talk with rigging to talk about how are we going to support that so the animator can animate that going through the air. Or maybe we need to talk to camera. Maybe we've built some lights, some light fixtures that are going to go in. We need them to be wired up so that they can actually turn on practically during the shot. These are all things that kind of get factored into each piece of the build that we're working on. And once we have all of these things built, and once they've gone through all the other teams for buy-off and we feel like we're ready, then we move down to the assembly. And the assembly is where all the sets which we've built in our fabrication spaces, they're broken down into like bite-sized pieces so that we can transport them, move them through our buildings along with the set parts over to the unit, and then we reassemble all of it. And once this is complete, then it's in the hands of the set dressers. Our main goal at this point is to get buy-off from the environment from the director and the creative executives. And the way we do that is with on-stage vetting. So we send all of the assets out there, the dresser goes in and sets everything up and dresses everything and puts it where it needs to be. And for on-stage vetting, we typically review the set from a wide angle. It's sort of the widest point that we're going to see the set from, just to get a buy-off on the full environment. Once we have buy-off on that OSV frame, then we're going to take the camera and put it wherever our first shot is, which in many instances is a much tighter shot. And so once we have that shot, then we'll do a final dress pass to make sure all those little details are exactly as they should be. And then we're ready for the shoot. This process is repeated for every single set build and every set part in the entire production. And we need to track these and track the tasks along the way. But how do we do it? And where do we start? Flow production tracking. Each task is laid out with dependencies based on the art workflow that we just talked through, specific for the production. So once we have this initial layout, then it will allow us to make task templates to adjust the timelines accordingly based on the size and complexity of the build. At the start of every project, I make sure we have a spread of task templates to stamp on set builds. Different set needs different timelines. So we've got, for example, if you look at this list that I'm showing you here, we've got set parts simple, set parts complex. These are individual set parts, but they're going to be some that are simple, some that are complex. That's two different waterfalls that we need to have. Then we also have Tiny Chef Refurb with complex and simple. We inherited a lot of items from season 1, and a lot of these items just came straight off the shooting floor and they needed touch-ups. They weren't quite ready for camera. So that's what those two are. And then you can see here, I've got Tiny Chef set 1 through 6. And these sort of summarize the different levels of complexity that we can have with our set builds. And here on the right, you can see the difference between a large complex and a small simple task template. Once we have all these, I can stamp these onto all of our different locations and put all those together to get our art department build schedule, which is great and usually 1,600 tasks long. And so a way to make it a little bit easier for everyone else to see what's going on is we can take that build schedule and we can sort it by teams. So this allows me to easily see the set fab schedule, the model shop schedule, the scenic schedule, or the landscape schedule. And I can see what the workloads are for that specific team, and I can cater it accordingly. So now that we've got all of this, we've got all of our tools ready to go. Let's get into the Tiny Chef season 2. We're going to start with the design. Starting with the design on an existing show is tricky. You want to pay homage to where it came from. You want to be respectful of the fan base and the environments that are already there. We wanted to think about what are the principles of design? What are those key elements that factor into the success of the Tiny Chef show? And for any of you that have seen it, you know a lot of this to be true. It's cute. It's kid forward, it's beautiful, it's based in reality. It's got this like cooking with grandma feel to it that's just so warming, so like lighthearted and endearing. So we're going to think about all those things and keep those things in mind as we go into the interior kitchen redesign. Very important environment. We want to make sure we're paying attention to what's been done before. So here is a still of the original LA kitchen that was used for socials. Charming rope braids detail up on the catwalk that you can see. There's beautiful flowers and vines coming in from the stonework and coming in from outside. There's natural transitions from vertical to horizontal planes. There's lots of elements in here that we really loved. We really loved this window that you can see back here and the really intricate design of the mullions there. We also really loved the shape of the island, wanted to keep that as well. The other thing that everyone was really leaning into was up here in the stonework that you can see up here at the top. So now we're going to get into season 1. Here's the season 1 kitchen. And one of the big notes that they wanted us to address is the chalkboard behind Tiny Chef. So if you imagine that he's standing right here, getting ready to cook something delicious, And when you zoom in, he's got this chalkboard behind him, this black void. And so we wanted to sort of guss that up a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting. So here is our design, concept art design for our season 2 kitchen. And you can see we kept some of the rope work up on the catwalk, but we wanted to, we really wanted to think about maybe cat's cradle. And then you can see the rock work from before. You can see the fridge that we've added and the design of the island. Let's go into that a little bit more. So here you can see an overhead view. The season 1 island is very squared off. And it was hard for the animators to get Tiny Chef all the way up to the kitchen island. So we went with the beam shape, similar to what they did in the Socials kitchen that I showed you before. And this allows the puppet to get right up close and easy reach all of his pans and pots and spoons and whatnot. So going into the environment around him, here you can see on the left-hand side here, this is a season 1 wall, and you can tell because of the circular window. And then on the right here, this is a new sculpt incorporating the space for the refrigerator, the hallway to other environments, and the upstairs window. Well, you can also see the center rock wall. And the reason that we have this area here in the middle that's a little bit more colorful is that this was part of a look dev piece, which we talked about, look development. And they loved it so much that we decided to go on ahead and just integrate it into the build and have it be part of it. Here's the second review, and you can see I'll flip back and forth just so you can see the differences. So you can see we swapped out that camera left wall. We went with an opening that was similar to the the Social kitchen, which is really lovely. And you can see they finished mold and cast of that center wall. You can see a more defined line work in both of the walls on the left and right. So let's take one more look at that concept art. This is our season 2 concept art. And from there, this is our finished season 2 completed kitchen. Isn't it beautiful? It looks so nice. It's so colorful. It really speaks to just the creative juices that Tiny Chef has and just the care that he takes with his environment. We wanted it to be playful and fun, but approachable. We wanted it to be recognizable, but also just, we wanted it to be an environment that said more about Tiny Chef. Let's do another one. Interior kitchen bedroom, or sorry, interior chef's bedroom redesign. This one was an interesting environment. Again, here's a spread just to sort of show you the different designs we were dealing with. So we've got the digital team bedroom, which, you know, feels honestly like it's very in line with the Tiny Chef season 2 kitchen that we made, just from the overall color scheme. Then you've got our season 1 bedroom concept art here. And then over here on the right is the finished season 1 bedroom. And that's what we inherited, was the season 1 bedroom. So after looking at all those designs and working through the design process, we have concept art for our season 2 bedroom design. And you can see there's definitely elements that they pulled from the Social kitchen. You can see here the ladder on the left. You can see the bed here from the season 1 design that they ended up changing, but we decided to bring it back. We've got a nice little balcony here. It's really beautiful. Now, sometimes in the set design, we want to put little Easter eggs. Here's a great example of one of the Easter eggs that we did. So if you look at Tiny Chef, and we can zoom in here. Well, I can't really zoom in, but if you squint, you can see Tiny Chef's hat here in the corner, and it has a very distinct shape. It's part of the logo in the show. It's key to his silhouette, right? And so we thought it would be a lot of fun to integrate that into the set design. So here, as an overhead view, you can see that it has the shape of Chef's hat. Now, this is definitely not something that the audience is going to be able to see, but sometimes we just do things like this because it just makes sense. It just feels right. Here's our bedroom wall sculpt review. You can see we've done some amazing line work, and they've sort of worked in some different areas for the bed here. We've got the beautiful window and the rock wall over here and working on the balcony. One thing that we really loved about the season 1 set was that bedroom floor. If you take a close look here, it's super cute. It's got mahjong tiles and dominoes and rulers, and we loved that floor. So we wanted to make sure we integrated that with it. So let's take one more look here at the concept art, season 2 bedroom design, and then finished bedroom. Oh, it's so quaint. I love the stamps up on the wall. This is a cupcake liner that we used as a lampshade. Super cute. It looks so nice. Okay, one more. You want to do one more? Okay, exterior chef yard redesign. And I know the image looks kind of scary, but it's not that scary. It felt scary. The reason it felt scary is that it's Chef's yard. You know, this is a really important environment in his world, and we wanted to do it justice. It's in the opening credits. It's so important. There were different things that they wanted us to keep. They really liked the colorful fence, but they wanted us to address the bark texture on the outside and then the super flat plane of the yard. You know, if you look over here on the turf, it's very, very flat here on the sides, and they wanted us to address that and just give it a little bit more movement in the environment. So here you can see the design evolution. It goes from upper left to lower bottom. So upper left is sort of where we started, and you can sort of see the evolution. It was pretty quick on that we decided to go from that blue wall to a more brick wall. And there was originally a door over here. There was a thought that maybe there would be some interaction with Chef, that maybe there would be a human interacting with Chef. And inevitably we decided to go a different route. And you can see here we moved into this design, and then here on the bottom right is our final design. So let's zoom in on that final design so you can get a good look at it. It's so beautiful. I love the little door in the fence back here, the watering can shed, beautiful little garden box, the lovely little pathway that goes all the way around it. Here's our stump in process. These are my friends Jillian and David working on the exterior stump, priming it. And you can see just in this smaller image here, we're putting on the awnings over top of the windows, and there's some window boxes putting in the front door as well, just to make sure everything fits. So that's the stump. If we take a look at the deck breakdown, let's imagine really quick that Tiny Chef is standing right here on the front steps of the stump, and the animator needs to animate and help Tiny Chef get down those front stairs. Well, in order to help Tiny Chef out, we need to be able to remove all of these decks here in the front so the animator can get as close as they can. And so we have these deck break layouts, and what this shows us is just the puzzle that we have to work with. All the different decks that can be taken out for different camera angles or access issues. It just gives us options when it comes down to solving the problems that come with the production. Another thing that was interesting to look at is we talked about the flat plane of the ground. You know, we can look at the concept art, but concept art doesn't necessarily tell you how the ground moves and like where it rises and lowers and what's tall grass versus what's low grass. And so this is a beautiful graphic. It just gives the landscapes team a better idea of where those different areas are within the landscape. So here we are. Let's take one more look at our season 2 yard design. And then this is our completed yard. And it looks so lovely. And if you get an opportunity to see some Tiny Chef, which I highly recommend, you can find some episodes on YouTube. Definitely be sure to look for the season 2 episodes. You'll see the opening credits. There's a beautiful shot of the exterior stump at the beginning of that. So definitely take a look. So now we have these sets, and they've all got props, and that's great. And all these different things make up the whole. But it also means that we have a huge collection of smalls. And if you think about this show, it's a cooking show. So that means we need cooking items. So here you can see plates and bowls and mugs and cups. These little pitchers that you're seeing here, they're about this big, maybe about 2 inches tall. Moving to the next one, we've got our cooking utensils and cloches and cake plates, and whisks. We've got cutting boards and teapots and lids and baking trays and mortar and pestles, instruments and microphones for the stump band. We've got so many amazing assets, and the designs are done, which is great. And the sets and the props are done, which is awesome, but it's not that simple in an episodic. And the problem is that each episode has unique props and sets that were not considered in the initial build schedule. We knew we had to build sets, but we hadn't really thought that we needed to build a bunch of specialty items for these episodes. So how do we forecast the potential overage? How do we visually portray scenarios that are easy to understand for team members who maybe aren't fluent in flow production tracking? And what other resources can we lean into? Here you can see the prop build for the sets. So all of these pink bars that you're seeing here up on the left here, these are all of the tasks associated with the build of the props assigned to sets. The green ones that you're seeing down here are the new builds. These are all the new things that we need to build specifically for these new scripts. So scripts had an increasing number of episode-specific props that were not already part of the build. And the newest scripts called for an average of 50 new props per cart, which is a half episode. Do we have enough time to build all the assets before the crew rolls off? How do we forecast it? Let's find out. So what I did is I went through and I ran some scenarios and I said, okay, if each new episode has an average of 50 new props per cart, so that means that I need 20 days to fabricate 50 props per cart. So let's lay those out and see how long it's going to take. And it meant that it showed that we wouldn't finish fabricating until December of 2025. That's this year, which is amazing, right? Like, that's not going to work. If you take a closer look at this graphic, I've got two little milestone points here. There's one that's a little earlier and one that's a little later. This one that's a little earlier is marking a skeleton crew. So we build these sets, and once they're all built and we're shooting, we just need a maintenance crew. We just need a crew that can be there to just help make sure that all the things are not breaking before we need them to shoot. You know, there's always breakage, but we need things to sort of stay as great as they can be until the shoot's over. And then the second milestone that you're seeing there, that's when the art crew rolls off completely. So I don't have any labor funding after that moment. And you can see that this isn't really working. So scenario one, no change to the trajectory. It's not going to help us out. Let's go to the next one. Scenario two, let's take half those labor tasks and decrease them by 50%. It still doesn't work. Okay. Scenario three, let's take all those labor tasks and decrease them all by 50%. I mean, we're getting closer. You can't deny it. We're definitely getting closer, but it's definitely not where it needs to be. In the end, this is what our final schedule looked like. We set a maximum of 5 new assets per episode, and then we leaned into purchase solutions that required little to no additional labor, and we did heavy reuse of our existing inventory then that was written into all the remaining episodes. And you can see here, we managed to get it to all fit. So let's take a look at some of those episode-specific props that I was talking about. We've got chips and dip, fruit chews, and dino cake. You can see each one sort of has its own collection of things. If you think about cooking show, if he's making chips and dip, for example, he's got to chop the onion, he's got to mix in the sour cream, he's got to chop the dill, he's got to mix all of these things together. Well, in stop motion, we're not making real food, we're making fake food. And so we need to have every single iteration of that food along the way. So that's all the different little cups that you're seeing in these graphics. We did an episode about poi, which was a whole lot of fun. We have also some episode specific chalkboards and tables and chairs. And then I love this image. This is our episode specific food. So let's see here. Over here, we've got a mango tart. We've got Napales tacos here. We've got sloppy joes. We've got vermicelli noodle bowls, cornbread, avocado sushi, ratatouille, potato chips, potato skins, potato French fries, matzo ball soup, you name it. Okay, so at ShadowMachine, right, we're always trying to find ways to innovate. And during Tiny Chef, we sort of dipped our toes into flow capture, but we mainly used it for the color grade. A very real challenge for us, though, is that we are more often having remote directors. So let's talk through how we're planning on leaning into flow capture to streamline our communications. So something that we're really excited about is that flow capture gives us high quality live views straight from the shooting units. This allows remote directors to give reviews and notes to people that are in the shooting unit, even though they're remote. Flow capture enables live motion control and lighting reviews, working sessions, live previs views, and final comp. And we can adjust the specific color settings across all devices reviewing the media to ensure that everyone is seeing the same thing. Flow capture is going to replace Evercast for editorial sessions, and it enables rooms within flow capture for meetings where live stage views can be brought into the room. It's also going to allow us to share 3D print files with outside vendors in a secure way. Flow capture lets us create playlists and sends them through flow capture for review, and all notes will come back to flow production tracking. The review tool will also allow us to integrate client reviews into the same software, enabling all team members, both local and remote, go to one site. Here at ShadowMachine, we're really excited about our future and how flow production tracking and flow capture will help pave the way for more streamlined processes and communication. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with me today. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. I hope you learned a little something here. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you. Okay, I love you. Bye.